All right, give it a lot of freedom now. Let's see what it will make with this. What is that? I've seen worse. What? What is going on now?
Shadowversity.
Greetings, I am Shad, and the AI revolution is upon us, specifically AI art. There are some amazing things being made, and I've actually made things that amazes me, but the question I've had in regards to this AI art is, can it actually design effective functional swords? You see, when it comes to swords in art, especially fantasy art, they have had a bit of a rough go in terms of how functional they are depicted. And here on Shadowversity, we've had a lot of fun looking at horribly designed fantasy swords. So the question is, what can this AI program do in regards to making both, I guess, stereotypical fantasy swords, but could we actually get it to make some functional, awesome looking swords? That's going to be the challenge here. Because contrary to what you might know, there's actually still a decent amount of artistry required in getting these AI programs to produce really great results. They need very specific prompts that guides the AI to create the best results. But not only that, then there is tweaking about, what type of processing it'll do and other things. Could you focus on certain art styles? And what can really help it out is when you give it an image to work off of. And that's what I've already done to see what I was able to do with some of my own concept designs, because I'm a very average artist at best, but I know how to depict the style and look that I want. And chucking it into this AI program, Stable Diffusion is the one I'm using, the results have honestly blown me away. It's amazing what I was able to make. Seriously, here are some of the beginning artworks with what I was able to get Stable Diffusion to make for me. It wasn't easy though. There is still artistry required, and a lot of these final results actually required me making kind of like a composite of multiple different results that the AI was made, because sometimes hands are wrong in one, but the face was really good in another. And so I was able to get the best things and compile them in Photoshop to get flawless results. Will we need to do that for swords? Let's find out. So in addition to trying to get the AI to make a functional looking sword, I also want to try and get it to make a sword that matches one of the images I have made. So you might be aware that my graphic novel is currently available on Indiegogo, and I want to see if it can try and remake Imperious, the sword of my graphic novel. It's still available for a very short time, guys, if you did want to grab a copy. I hired one of the best artists in the business, Mike S. Miller. The art is fantastic. No expenses were spared. We paid for great colouring, lettering, and of course we put in heaps of our own time to produce the best quality graphic novel we can. This is top tier, and guys, you will genuinely love it. The launch campaign is out. You can get it in collector covers, leather bound, and I've released the second edition of my novel in the collector edition covers and leather bound as well. They're only available for a short time. Collector edition, high quality, and of course a really awesome story for you to enjoy. But I'm also using the success of that Indiegogo to make more graphic novels. I've registered a new comic book company, and one of the projects is a space opera that is called All Star. Don't go there with the name. I know about the name, all right? I have a whole stream talking about this on Night's Watch. But yes, it's called All Star, and it'll grow on you if you have issues. Like, it's grown on me. I like it. And I have some concept work that I've done, just basic sketches, and look at the results I was able to get out of Stable Diffusion based on this sketch that I have. But there's something missing. The sword. The AI had such a problem trying to incorporate the sword in the pose, and I was messing up everything, and so I was able to get a much cleaner result taking the sword out of the original sketch entirely. But now I want to put the sword back in by generating a model of just the sword by itself, hopefully based off of the design of the Omni Blades or Omni Sword of this setting, and then reintroduce it back into the image and get the AI to process it all together. So that's going to be the final step, and it'll be really cool to see if we can pull that off. But first, let's just work on just a sword. So here we have a local installation of Stable Diffusion. What you'll notice if we do a very basic unclear prompt, let's have a look at what we are able to produce as a result. So I'll just type in sword. All right, this is what it's made. Interesting. You can see what I was actually kind of going for there. It's not terrible. What I'm seeing is that the sword is breaking the edges of the screen. Like, look at this. So, it's a bit random. If we make it longer, in terms of the width of it, it might be able to get samples of the internet that has like the length of the sword in the image. And so, let's see what this is able to make, just increasing the length. Okay. Alright, so let's add in longsword, but the more prompts should make it better and more defined. Wow. Look at this! Not exactly what we were going for, but there's some really interesting really interesting things here. But yeah, again, not exactly what we wanted. I wonder what caused it to have a result of that. And look, maybe it'll be interesting. Is Cult of Athena doing anything? But let's actually do a batch of swords and see what it generates based off of this prompt. Okay, these are the results. I mean, wow. Okay, this is really interesting. It's like it has trouble processing what the handle is versus the crossguard. These are bizarre. Really, oh, wow. Though, these look like axe heads. And that's almost like a spearhead. Like, look at some of the handles here. There's actually some... Like, look at this! That's an actual sword there! That's a really thin, long-looking sword. But the fact that... Look, that's like it's getting... I don't know, it could be a crossguard, but it looks like it's drawing from maybe a polearm. This one looks alright. Really thin and long, though. Wow. Look at that one. This one actually has some actual workable swords in it. Oh my goodness. Okay, these are just some random sword blades. Look at this one. That is actually a functional looking type of sword. Oh wow. Alright, these ones are bizarre. We got a double sword. We made a double sword. Like, that looks like a sword. Do you see this one right here? Yeah, it is having some trouble just to kind of figure out what an actual sword is. Thing is, though, this actually doesn't mean the AI is completely incapable of doing it, because you could try new models that would, I guess, have a better sampling set for the AI to figure out what a sword is. At the moment, it's just trying to figure out what a sword, and it doesn't really know. This is interesting. Have a look at some of these. Oh, wow. Oh, some of these are just really bizarre and very abstract. Not a lot of them are clearly like this. Yeah, that one's kind of like a complete sword with something lying on it. You always had it. You always just a random blade there. It's having trouble with longsword. You all know what we want to see if it can do. Can it do a katana? Why are you making? It's actually not a terrible face. A lot of other random mess. Oh, I wonder what is the prompt that's getting it to make warriors instead. All right, improvement. Are they katanas? Not really, but they're more Asian-looking style swords. That bottom one is like a machete-like sword. We do have a sword. A sword. That is an actual sword. And look at that. That one's a sword-like thing. It's long handle. That one gave us more than what? Like, two actual swords then. So you might be thinking that AI just can't really, make swords from scratch. That one's an interesting one. Look at that. And you'll be right, but it's not that it actually is incapable of it. It's more that it hasn't been trained to know what to do to be able to produce AI-generated swords. So, man, that's pretty darn close. Look at these. Like, something weird's happening there, but they are very close. Wow, that's probably the best one that we have had so far. Is it a katana? Almost. Well, okay, so I can get us kind of close to some some of the attempts. The thing is, though, there are more tools than just trying to make something out of the ether. You can give it an image prompt to help us get the type of sword that we want. Let's bring in this little, so I designed this in SketchUp, and it's a image of the 3D model of a sword that I've made, and get that to match. All right, out of interest, without changing anything else, wonder what it will generate based on this. Now, it has a lot of freedom to interpret it already, and so we got something pretty messy there. I'm going to take that down, generate it again, see what it can come out with. You know, it's modified the design, clearly, but I don't think it looks better. Still, that's interesting. That's not a terrible designed one. And so, I kind of like that one. That one's not bad. Do you see what it's... So it's just taking the input and changing it, but it's not really making one from scratch, is it? Like, that one's not... Like, it's coming out with some interesting designs. Let's give it a bit more freedom. You know, it's not a pretty one there. That's interesting. I don't mind that. Okay, that's an improvement. There's more definition and depth with the sword designs here. That one's not bad. It's not great. Alright, give it a lot of freedom now. Let's see what it will make with this. What is that? I've seen worse. What? What is going on now? Oh my goodness. Let's go back to, you know, my sword design here. And give it a lot of freedom working off of that, which should help with the color issues. Maybe not. All right. You're drunk, program. You got too much freedom now. Let's reel you in a bit. Follow the design a bit better. There's still too much freedom. It's not. That's interesting. It's like it's in a sheath of some type. Hey, it's bizarre, but this is a distinct crossguard. It's like I've actually seen worse fantasy designs, honestly. It's not bad. And so I've actually found the AI to be pretty good when working off of a image prompt, okay? And then you just you have fun fiddling with the parameters, how much freedom you want it to interpret and extrapolate. And if you have the right model to work off of, you can get some really interesting results. Like, that's pretty cool. Like, for a fantasy, weird things on the blade. And so, say if we wanted to try and work with that one, I'd send it in Paint, and I just want to say, look, re-render that part and that part to try and give us a straighter blade. And so, generate based on that. Okay, fix the blade a little bit, do it again. And so, this is how you can start to tweak the AI art that it generates to get, you know, a better result. I'm happy with that. I was like, there is a pretty cool fantasy sword design that is not horrible in terms of functionality. Like, if the blade's thin enough, you might be able to get away with one being that thick. That's pretty cool. I count that as a success. And so if we just bring this into Photoshop here, to fix up some of the small little things, all we need to do, like so, and I would be perfectly happy with that design. So it does work, all right? So we've seen what Stable Diffusion can try and do based off of historical designs, but what type of fantasy designs could it come up with? So I've typed in fantasy sword. Let's see what it will come up with. Interesting. We're getting pretty much the same results. So this bottom sword is an interesting design, but as we found out before, having an image prompt will probably work much better. So I've brought in Imperious and giving it, you know, about halfway freedom for it to do its own thing. This was the first result. And so So it's stuck fairly closely to Imperius's design, though there are some interesting little embellishments and changes that it has made. I actually kind of like what it did with the base of the blade right here, but I also find it really interesting that it's caught on to the fact that the blade, being blue, is some type of special material, and it's given the swords really interesting lighting and surface effects. And some are more impractical than others, but there is actually some creativity here that, you know, I find really intriguing. Like, look at this one. What a really interesting crossguard design. And this isn't terrible because it's still quite thin. And then it has this odd little knuckle bow thing coming down there. It's actually quite creative in its interpretation of these different designs. Look, I really like this kind of design of the base of the blade here as well. And it's got mixed up with the swept hilt, but you can see what it's trying to do here. This one is a bit of a mess, but there are some really cool things to look at there. So let's see what it will do if we actually give it even more freedom. Okay, and so with that additional bit of freedom, some of these have gone way too far, to the point of, like, where's the handle? It's not even a sword anymore. And so we really were on the kind of limit. Though having said that, look at what it did with the sword here. I would be happy to take this blade and the kind of hilt of the blade here and attach to a handle in a composite with some other, you know, images, because this is a really cool kind of crystal-like effect, which is what Sun Knuckles actually is supposed to look like in my book. So with the extra freedom, we've got some more creative blade designs, but far more messed up hilts. This one, wow. This isn't bad at all, actually. I mean, I'd want a larger pommel for a counterbalance, but that one's not terrible. This one, oh, what? This is a very classic schlock kind of fantasy. Look at the size of this hilt, way too bulky and big. Not enough room for the handle, but what's funny about this, it's very comparable to a lot of bad fantasy sword designs. This one's a bit of a mess. Lots of spikes, you'd hurt your hand on that handle. I don't know. Again, I don't know what's going on with the handle, but what happened at the hilt here isn't terrible. There is some kind of unique construction there. No handle at all, it looks like. This one, okay, we see a bit of a handle. It's not awful. It needs a bigger pummel, though. Some of the same issues, like, I don't know what's happening with the handle there, but look at that. These are some really interesting things, and you can just keep going with this. Wow, this next batch looks far more sword. Like, this is an interesting one. You could try and interpret this as a type of swept hilt, if it's not perfectly in line with the handle. Look at... This isn't terrible, just increase the size of the pummel, and that's a really interesting fantasy sword design that isn't horrible. This one is pretty cool. Oh, this one's a bit of a mess. Not bad. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with this one. Wow, I actually love what's going on down here at the base of the blade there. Like, this is actually a really useful tool for just concepting designs, and then you can combine the best parts of what you like most. This one's a mess. Though this one's... Wow, there's potential. Some obvious issues, of course. Alright, this is a bit of a fail. Look at the connection there between the sword and hilt. Also, a bit of a mess on that one. Oh, wow. Like, look at the design of the hilt here, of the crossguard. This is really unique, and it looks really interesting. This isn't horrible by any means. Just fix up the handle, and there's something with a lot of potential. In terms of concepting fantasy sword design, there's a couple of misses, but there are some really interesting, cool-looking things. I really like some of those, and so when working off of a starting image prompt, you can get some really creative results. Okay, so, yes, that was fun. Clearly the AI has a lot of trouble just generating swords from scratch, but with the right prompt, you can actually get some really interesting results. Let's see if it can extrapolate my sci-fi sword in the same style that I was getting it to do it for the character, and then incorporate it into the original image. So I have the images here, all right? And what I'm hoping to get is her holding the sword lengthwise up. And I want to put it through the same kind of processing style to get into the comic book style, working off of the original design. And so to change it into kind of the comic book style, give it more for just to see what happens. I think it'll actually mess it up. This method might not work. I might need to superimpose it onto the image. First, though, I'm happy for it to alter the design if it can give me a cool look. Sword like that. It's come up with some interesting designs, honestly. That one is a really sci-fi, bizarre kind of looking sword, but definitely, you know, it's a sword object. I don't like... Interesting handle. That's not a terrible kind of design either, honestly. And it's given the blade a very digital kind of electronic look. That one has like a lightsaber feel to it, but a bigger projection part. Like, some of these aren't terrible, honestly. That one's not bad. Wow, some of them have... I really like that one. That one's got a great sci-fi look to it. Check that out. That's cool. And it's in the same... Ooh, we might have a winner. Don't know why it makes like a handle women. That was not bad. Oh, that's cool. That's pretty cool. I would replace the blade, but that handle's awesome, actually. I love that one. So there were two absolute winners with that batch. So these two sword designs, honestly, aren't that bad. I kind of like it. I think this one suits the character the most. And so what I would do to just make this finished off. So, see how this artwork is out of place? It doesn't have the right colorization and stuff. I'm still going to save a version of it with the original design in and put it into the AI to see if it'll grab that and extrapolate it and get it to match. Give it even more freedom. Let's see what it'll do. Look at that. That's not terrible. The handle's a bit wonky. That one's not bad. That has it. I kind of like how it has this kind of focal energy projection thing at the base, which gives it a unique look. Do you see how seamlessly integrated the sword is to the rest of the artwork? In fact, it's even added a glow effect around the sword that is bleeding over onto the hair, which makes it feel like the sword is in the image. This is exactly what I was wanting for it to be able to do. It's like it's on the exact money spot of the freedom that it can use to make some really interesting designs. I like that one as well, but also sticking close-ish to the original. But I actually think we did get there. We got there with this one where by generating it in the program itself, it already looks like it's integrated, and I could add some glow effect to the hair to make it look like it's more seamless. But these ones I'm also really happy with. I think work perfectly well for the concept of just showing that, they're not exactly lightsabers, because I think that one works, and I like how to add the glow effects. It's seamlessly integrated, and it's done. We achieved it! And there we go. What did we find out? AI is still having trouble, designing swords from scratch with text prompts, but with image prompts, there's some really cool possibilities. And not only that, we can actually integrate swords into artwork that wasn't even there in the first place, and the AI will actually adapt and fully, integrate it. So if it's like a laser sword, it actually adds glow effects and everything, like it's part of the artwork and it matches the style, which is pretty awesome. It's been a bit of a different video, but we got some really funny results in our experimentation. Hope you guys have enjoyed, and of course, hope to see you on the next video here on Shadowverse. So until that time, anyway.